Joining me on the phone today is Shaman Wendi.
Hey, Felix. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your awesome new show. I think it's really cool that you're doing this podcast. I think it's a great idea to help kind of bridge the divide between everybody. And the topic I chose was the lost art of common sense. And I guess what I mean by that is common sense is something that we learn in most cases. Some of us are blessed with the ability to analyze things and the need to contemplate and self-analyze. But common sense used to be the byproduct of failing and being allowed to fail. You know, we kind of go through the rock tumbler of life. You know, we try something and it doesn't work out, and you get a little tossed around, and a little more toughened up, and you start to see things from new perspectives, and through that lens, you learn who you are as a person, and that's how you learn, kind of what you stand for as a person. And if we don't have that resistance sort of put into the process of growth, self-growth, we lack that opportunity to refine ourselves. And with the generation that's kind of online now, that's called or considered the snowflake generation, they've kind of been given this pass that everybody's the same and everything is equal, but it's not. And it's a great injustice that's been done to their psyche by planting that seed, because the greater loss is the loss of identity, self-identity, and it's through self-identity that we also understand who we are, in our town, in our state, in our country, in our global world. We all have an identity, and we all stand for something that makes us unique. And when we lose that opportunity to grow and learn both sides of the polarity, a car battery runs from a positive and a negative polarity, and you can't make that car run unless both those cables are grounded. And that's kind of the way we experience this dualistic system that we live in. And by dualistic, I mean everything is either good or bad. It's black or white. It's positive or negative, or it's, whatever. Masculine, feminine. We are more than just those two options. We are multifaceted, multidimensional. And that's where we're being birthed into that concept. The new reality is understanding reality from a greater, more expansive awareness than just two sides of a coin. And having self-identity is an important part of that. Unfortunately, that is being socially engineered out of our culture, and it's being done not only through gender, but through global identities. And we need to remain cognizant of who we are as individuals and what we stand for, while being aware of the multi-dimensional, multifaceted platform that we live on and that we need to move into the future with in this new paradigm. And so common sense is extremely vital at this point in time, because there are factions that do not want us to grow beyond fighting with each other, because that's what duality offers. It's only my way or your way. There's nothing else. But we all know that's not true. And as long as the governments that don't want to see us be sovereign beings, they want to control us and limit our freedom, they're feeding into the global consciousness, the societal consciousness, through the media and propaganda, the idea of socialism, that we are all one, we're all the same, we all deserve everything. It's not like that. Yes, there are problems with capitalism, but there's a thing called contributionism. We all have to contribute. Like, if I don't contribute something, I can't get anything in exchange. And so this idea that is being fed into the culture, that we are all the same and we all deserve something for just living and breathing, yeah and no, and that's just common sense. Again, going back to common sense. And the only way common sense is cultivated is by failing and by hitting that wall and by being allowed the opportunity to burn your hand on the stove, so you understand that we don't touch the hot stove. And there's a whole generation that's not been allowed to happen. And I think that this is the systemic core of what is wrong right now, and why we're seeing this play out everywhere. People just are so unbelievably unconsciously ignorant. Anyway, what do you think? What do you see? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes pretty good sense. I mean, it seems like everything's got to have a label to it now. There's that saying, smooth seas never made for good sailors or seasoned sailors and everything. When you have no,
you have no core.
Yeah.
You have no. Yeah. I know what you're saying. Well, and on top of it, you get this sensitivity level where you can't say anything to anybody without now it being some horrible trauma that could actually get you thrown in jail. I mean, what the heck? Yeah. One of the ways that we learned how to be seasoned, right, was by having somebody come around and challenge us.
Yeah.
I mean,
put you in check, basically.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about bullying, right?
Right. No,
but and one of the ways that we were able to do that in a way that didn't feel, like bullying was through comedy. And now you can't even say anything everything is racist. Oh my goodness, it's just ridiculous. And this is, comes full circle back to common sense. I mean, that is not common sense, people. It's ridiculous. There is something deeper going on, something more nefarious. And what we need are people that are able to see that and say, hey, wait a minute, I'm being used as a tool for something that is divisive. This isn't, these people that are being more vengeful and attacking, they claim to do so under the guise of being smarter than everybody else, which is hilarious. They don't seem very smart.
Is it like a political correct thing? Is it just like people are trying to be more politically correct and then just finding a moment to kind of jump on somebody when they're like not following suit, I guess, type of a deal?
Yeah. Well, I think political correctness is ridiculous at this juncture. I think that again, we live by a code of ethics and morality that comes through spirituality. And the fact that that has become so fragmented and so demonized,
Yeah.
and an emphasis being put on psychiatry and psychology and mental and everything. You know what? Psychology is only one side of the coin. The other side is spirituality, and you can't have one without the other. And within spirituality is all of our psychic gifts, our intuition and, our creative endowments. And by negating the spirit, you're literally extinguishing the flame of creativity. And maybe that's, again, part of the agenda, because if you're not creative, if you can't be creative, right, you can't be an individual, because creativity is about being an individual.
Yeah. It's like the dark
Right?
it's like the dark ages where everything had to be, kind of allowed by monarchies and things, or
Yeah.
you weren't allowed to have freedom of expression and all
Correct.
that.
Yeah.
And it was actually demonized, like literally demonized, as saying if you're going to be doing this is going against the church or whatnot.
Right. Right.
So, like you were saying about knowing yourself to kind of have growth, and that got me thinking about, like, if when everything is pretty much stripped of you when you've hit rock bottom, and that goes hand in hand with the like labeling, when everything is taken from you, including the labels, then you really have to find who you really are, who you are without the labels, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And that is a brilliant observation. And it's funny that you bring that up, because yesterday there was a very, I've been getting a lot of downloads. I'm a shaman, and so, I get a lot of downloads. I've been getting a sequence of downloads for 3 days. But, and that's a whole nother show. But we are definitely in a bubble of that. But what that really ties into for me is that, if you remember, back in the early 90s, the internet was established, but it was something that we were still transitioning into, and it was a completely new framework. Like, nobody had the framework in their brain prior to as to what to even expect. So the internet was like a new frontier. And I remember being, obviously a musician in Los Angeles, and all of my interns were USC tech kids, right? And they're like telling me, "Oh my God, we're going to be the first to do, we're going to be able to do this and that and this and that." And I like was looking at them, and this is like 1992 and 1993, and I'm like, but you do understand that nobody's there yet.
Right.
Like, what you're telling me is possible is going to take another 10 to 15, if not 20 years to get there.
Right.
And so I personally, as a musician, got kind of like caught between, let's just say analog and digital, right? Because I came from a world of analog, and that means analog everything, right? Not just recording, but the metaphorical concept of analog. And to me, analog was the original. That's what our original architecture was, the analog architecture. And so the duplicate architecture is this digital copy that they've kind of ushered us into, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can see that as a concept. And so where we're at right now is exactly that same perception, because we're moving into multidimensional awareness, okay? And so, and whether you call that multidimensional earth or you call that awareness, everything is within. So a lot of people think we're going to be lifted off the planet and taken to somewhere. Nah, that's not what's going to happen. It's a transformation that is going on within the way we conceive reality. And you can stay in duality, which is judging, right, and polarizing with each other and getting divisive. That's the old three-dimensional reality that they want you to stay in. But where we're evolving as a human species is into a multidimensional awareness. And so within that multidimensional awareness allows for all of these natural byproducts, which is less definition with regard to gender and all these other things. So the fact that they're trying to use those same pieces in their social engineering war as pieces that polarize us, as opposed to the natural organic process that we should be going through, where we just begin to see that we're all living in the bar scene from Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where you go in and everybody's just like different. Everybody's doing their own thing. Like it doesn't matter. Like you don't polarize off of it because you're understanding that we're all blended in a different way. Why? Because we're all unique, right?
Right. I guess
So,
that's what would be the confusing thing for some people, is to be like, oh, are we all the same, or are we all different? Are we all like a stir fry type of a thing, or like a melting pot? You know what I mean? Like it's still the same. You're still on the same menu, I guess, the same dish, but one thing kind of holds its differences within the same dish. You know, inside for becoming like one all the same type of a thing, which obviously.
okay,
You know what I mean?
let's stop and take that same idea. Instead of we're like a dish on a menu.
Right.
We're just in the same restaurant. Like it's not, you know, it's not about one dish or the other. It's about all the dishes in the restaurant.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when you go to a restaurant, they don't just give you, you know,
Like everything at once, pretty much.
yeah. You have a choice, right? You have a choice.
Yeah.
And I hate to say even reduce it to menu, because, you know, that does bring up the fact that we are somebody's food source. When we're vibrating in the negative energy, the divisive energy, the competitive energy, the ego, we're vibrating at a lower frequency that serves the three-dimensional architecture. It doesn't serve the we are all together in this. Like we are all one, united together in this, while being unique individual parts.
Right. To
You
be
know,
thinking more on a spiritual level than more on a, I guess, physical level, or
but you can
social.
look at it, that same metaphor transposes spirit or any of, you know, physicality. Look, you can't have an orchestra without individual members of the orchestra, right? And
Right.
though all of those individual members of the orchestra create the orchestra itself, right?
Right.
But each one of them is playing a different instrument. And without that instrument, you're missing the whole spectrum of the orchestra.
That makes.
You know what I mean? It'd be pretty boring orchestra if you just like had, you know, drums and guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be interesting, but when you have the full spectrum, right, you get to hear all the more delicate notes and textures, and you know, again, this is common sense. Again, you and I are just exercising common sense. We're just taking something that we see in the world and contrasting it against something that we all understand, which is music.
And you're saying that people are trying to are basically being, I don't want to say like giving propaganda to like be pit against each other with this, you know, based on individualism and all that. But instead of seeing that we kind of need to work together, we're being.
We got to work together.
Right.
You know what? I have studied history most of all my life because I love history. I've studied U.S. history. I've studied European history. I've studied world history, religious history, galactic history. And the thing that, we've all been hurt. Every single one of us has been hurt. Every culture has been hurt. Every color skin has been hurt. Every gender has been hurt. Everybody's been hurt. So to begin, to try to go backwards in time and fix that ain't going to work. It's just not going to work. To have reparations, to fix the past, it doesn't work. What works is recognizing, not hiding from it, recognizing that we are all in pain and being able to embrace each other as brothers and sisters experiencing trauma and pain. And instead of turning on each other, recognizing who has caused this. I didn't cause your pain. You didn't cause my pain. The people that are controlling the three-dimensional matrix, they are the ones. They are the ones that do this. And it's not the president. It's the corporations, stupid. It's the bloodlines that own the corporations. And this is documented completely through history, like a footprint, a carbon footprint. But because you're distracted every day, look here, look everywhere else but right in front of you. And that's what common sense is. Instead of having others dictate what you think, how you feel, how you react, what clothes you wear. I mean, come on. We have to become our own moral code. It used to be that the cool dude would step up for the weakling, or the, cool chick, whatever you want to say, would stick up for the weakling, and then the others would be like, wow, Johnny Cool or Sherry Cool is sticking up for, idiot over there. Oh, okay, well, maybe I should be better. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's about mentorship. That's about leaders. When they broke down the families and we lost our parental units, some of them were actually awesome parental units. Some of us were raising our own parental units. But nonetheless, when they broke that system of mentorship, grandmas and grandpas, when they demonized the elderly, right? Like the elders in all other cultures are revered. But our culture, somewhere along the line, decided, that they were going to demonize the elders, anyone over 30, or anyone over 40, or anyone over 50, whatever it is these days,
Right.
When they started to demonize our elders, it was a way to break off our connection to history and the past and handing down vital information, right?
Right.
And the truth is that there's nothing new under the sun, and everything's been done every which way. Just because you apply it to a different medium or a different platform doesn't make it new. It just means you're putting it into another arena. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like the internet is really new. I mean, it's just a concept of operation that has taken the physicality out of the functionality.
Yeah, instead of going looking for an encyclopedia or dictionary, or actually going to a library, it's like now in your
exactly.
pocket. Yeah.
Like I don't have to get in the car and drive down to Walmart and get my supplies. I can just order them online. I don't have to go, I can pay things and pay. You know what I mean? It's like there's been an added level of ease, functional ease. But in the same breath, it just opens up the same possibilities for failure or errors or everything else. And So the truth is that the more we hand over our lives to an automated system, AI, the more we lose touch with the organic human template that understood how to survive, right? And understood how to hunt, understood how to build a house, understood how to, cook. And I mean, the kids these days, they don't understand any of that. They don't understand how to like, if you have a hole in something, they throw it away. No, if you have a hole in something, you break out a needle and thread and you just fix it. It's that simple. You don't need to go buy a new one.
Right.
It's just when I went to school, there was the girls had cooking class. Well, I shouldn't say girls because it was boys and girls. We had cooking classes, we had shop classes, auto shop, we had woodworking. They taught you skills. And
wonder why that would, like, it's like, why is that disappearing basically? Like, why would they take that out of the school? I wonder,
To make you helpless, to make you a service, working class, third world country, socialist blob.
Yep.
Because that's what it is.
Making everything too easy, I guess. Just you're not gonna bite the hand that feeds. If you got it easy because
bingo.
Yep.
Like, how if they're watching you, how likely are you to talk out on Facebook? Oh, not likely. Yeah, we're living in interesting times. I mean, everything is interconnected, and I know, I started off with this broad subject of, the lost art of common sense, but that's what I'm talking about. The lost art of common sense is actually what allowed us to survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important that we start to use our brains a little bit. And common sense is just something that's right in front of you. You have to pay attention. You just have to look and pay attention. You have to have the eyes to see what's right in front of you. Don't be easily distracted. Don't allow yourself to become impatient. Follow through. Find the integrity that you need to find.
Yep.
And those of us that have that stuff wired inside of us, be mentors. Don't feed the same, docket by judging others. Recognize that somebody is failing because they've been handicapped by the way things are being approached right now, and just, I don't know.
Help be a guide, I guess.
I don't try to fix people, but in the same breath, I want to be able to help expand somebody's understanding, and I just see the hunger for that in young people. Some young people are just, they're like a virus and they're gone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that, but you can see that for yourself. I don't have to, point that out, I'm sure.
Yeah. Seems like it kind of beyond repair sometimes. Like, how do you get through to somebody that maybe they don't see what they're doing? I don't know. How do you get through though?
Well, you can't get through them. I mean, because everybody's on a different path, and so those people that are on that path are going to have to go through the trauma, the trial and error. This is what I mean about the rock tumbler. They're going to have to experience for themselves what they need to, because that's part of the spiritual experience. We create what we need, to experience. That's karma. And, only through that process do you learn, how to have a moral code for yourself.
Right.
So, we can't prevent, that's what I mean about enabling. We can't prevent people from their experience of the rock tumbler. Some people don't need that, and they can understand things easier, and
don't have to learn it the hard way, basically.
Yeah. Like, they're older souls. So, but the younger souls that are here, they don't all know that. So, I think it's important that to open these dialogues, right? So that we can have conversations that we're not having.
Exactly. That's the
Yeah.
whole reason for the show, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's why I love that you want to do this show, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're opening up conversations that we need to have.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure and my privilege.